The Content Kings are back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. My favorite show of the month is this show. I woke up with a smile on my face. I was whistling, making coffee this morning. Coffee that's half calf, by the way. I was like, hey, listen, you can't do this to me again. I got dosed with a full caffeinated coffee, pot of fully caffeinated coffee. It was a couple Mondays ago. I had a top 10 takeaways that was just set the record for syllables, total word count. I was just on a caffeine rush the whole time.
I don't drink coffee. Is half calf a thing? It feels like I would have. I mean, coffee is such a big thing in society. I feel like I would have heard about. I've heard of decaf.
Yeah, half calf's the best. Half calf is great. It puts me at the right level. I have a couple cups, and it basically I max out at 3 cups, and therefore I have at most a cup and a half of caffeine, and I'm good to go. Otherwise, I start to get past the point of optimal. I start to get a little bit anxious, and I just don't. I can feel it in my skin. I can just feel that I'm not on the level. I'm just a little too wired, and so I don't want to be that way and then crash later. And the audience, by the way, is hating this because this is like the 3rd time I've talked about it, and they're like, enough already with the caffeine talk. We get it. You like half calf. And that one top 10 takeaway show was the greatest top 10 takeaway show in the history of this channel. Everyone agrees. But I'll never do it again because I don't want to have a heart attack. And now I'm feeling very good. I was whistling, making my breakfast, knowing I was going to get to talk to Alex Dunlap today. It is a real treat. We like to talk about what's happening with fantasy football, the trends that are happening throughout the week in terms of injuries and who's the chalk and what happened on Thursday Night Football. Where are the dynasty rankings trending? Because Alex and I both closely monitor the dynasty rankings on PlayerProfiler and Rosterwatch, and that's always interesting to see major moves starting to happen about this time of year. You got to come to Jesus on some players. And with some players, you've just got to say, you know what, we're taking the governor off this engine. This is going all the way to the moon. Where we're done. We're done holding this player back, right? So there's a lot to talk about. Right now, there is one of the great target voids of my lifetime. My history doing fantasy football as a content creator, as a player, what we're seeing in San Francisco is an incredible opportunity for someone to step up and command a big target share in one of the most prolific offenses in the league. And then we have this guy that the one incumbent who is going to be healthy on Sunday is Deebo Samuel, though he his lungs may not be at full capacity. The rest of his body currently is healthy. And, now George Kittle, we have the foot injury that is may or may not affect him. We're going to find out together. But how you figure out this San Francisco offense, how it's all going to play out the rest of the year, that could win and lose a championship. So what do you think about San Francisco, and how are you playing it?
This week, or just like rest of season, or like as far as
Alex, come on, dude.
What?
Pick one. Talk about it. What do you want me to?
I mean,
what do you want me to say? You want me to lay it out exactly? Okay, no. This week, 60%, but also 40% the rest of season. But then actually an extra bonus 10% dynasty.
Okay.
What do you want to say?
I think, well, all right, so we just got news that, it looks like Juwan Jennings is going to be doubtful for this game. And so we know Brandon Ayuk. I think what that's going to mean is that as far as for what does Pearsall cost this week?
Jesus Christ.
Not sure. Wait, was Pearsall night? I think that's the Sunday night game. So that's the Sunday night game. So he's not even on the main slate. Um, I think it's the number 9 matchup on the roster watch matchup tool this week for opposing wide receivers. And so
Yes.
I think with Pearsall, look, it wasn't it wasn't quite the you know wasn't quite the super breakout that I would I kind of thought, man, last week that it was smart to pick up Pearsall before the game started, just to see if there would be any kind of breakout. This is a first round pick. It's a guy that we all liked. We can go over what we kind of thought about his profile and all the rest of it, but I thought it was smart to maybe pick him up just to see if there was some kind of role that he was just going to have immediately, some weird thing that we haven't really seen from any of the others, right? And that wasn't what we saw. But then what we did see is that, I mean, it was like total dumb luck, I guess. Not good luck for Brandon Ayuk, but luck to pick him up because, the whole thing happens with Brandon Ayuk. And obviously he's going to have to step up into some kind of elevated role moving forward. I think that certainly, certainly it all helps George Kittle. It helps, dude. And then we just got word it looks like Christian McCaffrey is going to be back in week 10. And so, I mean, that has big implications for what it means for Jordan Mason. I think though, Matt, I think that by now, if you picked up Jordan Mason in week 1, or whatever, and you're able to kind of stash him, um, you've already gotten like your big payoff and your big returns off of him. I think it would be greedy to say that you need it through the whole rest of the season. He's certainly helped you out a whole lot. So, are you interested in right now going out? Byron's been a big fan of going out and trading for Christian McCaffrey right now if you can, in season long.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
in,
did you think
not in
that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to be back? Of course he was going to be back eventually. Week 10, that sounds about right. That's about when I expected him to be back.
He's got two Achilles tendinitises. Tendinitises?
Listen, with tendinitis, they inject it. You put cortisone shot. You numb the pain. You go out and play on it. That's what they do. That's football. That's how it works. George Kittle, though, very important though. Let's stay in the moment. George Kittle returning to practice on Thursday, limited session, that puts him on track to play. Deebo Samuel on track to play. Then the question is, who is the third option going to be? And without Juwan Jennings, that is definitely going to be Ricky Pearsall after he commanded 5 targets last week. So we could see a consolidated target distribution of Deebo, Kittle, and Pearsall.
Yeah. And dude, well, here's the whole thing with the 49ers. Matt, how you can like announcers sometimes are bad and stuff like that, and these analysts are sometimes bad, but you can take a lot from what you hear from them, because they've been in production meetings all week with the coaching staff, right? And so when they say things that are like, oh, that's an insightful thing that he just said about what this coaching staff thinks about this player, you're like, well, did he really just think that up, or is that something that that they just told him all week? And one of the things about it was during the time, and I don't even remember who it was, but it was during the time whenever Juwan Jennings was having a couple of these games where he had a couple of these monster games for a stretch there, right? And they were having a discussion between the analyst and the play-by-play guy about, why, like, shouldn't they be getting Juwan Jennings on the field even more? And they say, well, what Shanahan says is like, if I'm going to get Juwan Jennings off the field or onto the field whenever I have Deebo and Ayuk both healthy, that means I got to take Kyle Juszczyk off the field. And so, man, how could I ever do that? Right. And so that was always he sees him as such an important piece in what they do. And so if there were going to be 2 healthy outside receivers in Deebo and Juwan Jennings, you'd worry about Pearsall because of the whole Juszczyk thing. Maybe he would bump him off. But now you don't even have to worry about it. And then Cowing is another. Yeah, you bring up Cowing. That's another super interesting one. Cowing has a different gear. If you go back and watch, it was the Alamo Bowl game that they played versus Oklahoma, and you go back and watch his touchdown from that game, you can just see like he certainly has he certainly has a different gear, and I think that he actually. I think that what did he run, a 4.38? Man, I think that that's actually kind of the top end of what that guy can run. He looks more like a fourth. Like he's one of these absolute turbo mode types. So
He's a lot
it'll be
faster than
interesting to see.
Pearsall.
Oh, is Cowing? Yeah, yes, he's faster.
My theory of the case here is that with Debo coming back and Kittle probably playing, Cowing could easily outscore Ricky Pearsall because Cowing is a better fit.
Well,
Pearsall, when you look at his profile, he profiles more like the Debo, like an inside yak specialist. That's what he was at Florida too, right?
well,
You think about the highlight reel catches, right? They're over the middle, they're close to the line of scrimmage. Where Cowing is a guy that can actually play on the outside and get deep. He's not just a slot receiver. He's one of these Z receivers that can, get deep on double moves. He could also just, take the bubble screen and break a tackle. So it's exciting. It's exciting. We're Cowing highly available in fantasy football. No one rushed out on the waiver wire to get him like they did with Pearsall. And in my fab guidance, I talked about, hey, Cowing is going to be the much better value, and watch him have a spike week before even Pearsall does.
Well, the thing that Cody, I saw you put up a thing from Cody, and it's funny. It's funny that he says he's in on Cowing because it was Cody. It was always during the process that would talk about Pearsall and his super fast feet, quick twitch. But we always talk about 40 of his 65 receptions were last year were for first downs. Like he's a chain mover, and so I understand what you're saying about But I think that I think in that offense, especially with Purdy, the way he's kind of looking now. I mean, I think that they could use a little bit of continuity in a guy that's an epic chain mover like that. Really good hands, lots of twitch. It's a different kind of chain mover than a Kittle.
We are going to see what happens, but it's not a lock. Like it's with Kittle and Debo relatively healthy. Again, they're not totally healthy. They're relatively healthy. That's where most of the targets are going to go. And oftentimes we try to spend too much time on waiver wire ads because that's our job, because that's what's interesting. That's where if someone hits on the right waiver wire ad at the right time, it can win a league. Understood. Yeah. But also, we're heading into the final 2 weeks before the trade deadline in fantasy football, and we also have to think about providing people with buy highs and buy lows in the trade market. Just scanning your league and seeing who has Kittle, seeing who has Debo, and seeing if you can have a deal. Right? That's that's the less discussed, but yet sometimes more impactful move is to, rather than spending that time scouring the waiver wire, just go to whoever has Kittle, go to whoever has Debo, and don't even have to reach out to them. I mean, it's best if you text them first or you email them, whatever, DM them, is Kittle available? What's it going to take to get Debo? Or you could just throw an offer out there and start trade talks and see if they shut you down right away, or maybe they're interested. I would go get both these guys are very attractive.
But so Byron put out his list on Rosterwatch of his trade report for his players that he says that you should consider buying, and he has Debo and talks about Kittle in that thing. For sure. Some of these are interesting. But
yeah, buy high, man. Buy high. What if I told you that Kittle scores 20 fantasy points a game the rest of the way? There's no amount, because that would give you such incredible leverage at that position where he outscores the next tight end, whoever that is, Brock Bowers, by 5 fantasy points a game. The kind of advantage that would give you the rest of the way would absolutely be worth a high-end receiver, a running back with a lot of upside, a sexy running back, all those deals, they would make a lot of sense, especially if you're currently weak at tight end. If you're just like, I'm done with Dalton Kincaid, I can't take the volatility of Kyle Pitts. I just can't do it anymore.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's in such a bad spot with tight end.
That's why having Kittle is such an incredible advantage.
Yeah.
Right. And now it seems like, oh, you're preaching to the choir. Everybody knows that Kittle is going to smash.
No,
yeah, but
man,
the question is how much. I mean, if it's a like a 2020 Kelsey level production, then it is actually worth talking about. It is worth prioritizing, finding a way to go get that guy.
Well, I think, Matt, that some people still, people have the idea of Kittle that have had him in fantasy. They say, like, man, I like having Kittle for his big weeks, but then he goes out and he has what he thinks is a monster game where he just goes out there and like has an awesome blocking game, and he just spitting dirt and whatever, you know what I mean? Like pancaking dudes and being happy, thinking he's at his game of the year, and he gets 2 targets, 1 catch for 8 scoreless yards. And he's still happy as a clam because he's rightly so, man. Like, he's so awesome at the tight end position because he's such a well-rounded player. I think a lot of people still kind of think that about him, especially then here's the thing. You think about the non-sophisticated fantasy players in your league, and there's probably some. I mean, we talk to a lot of people, and this isn't going to be the case in the FFPC draft that you did with Theo. You're not going to get this over on anybody. But if you're in your home league, there could be somebody that's like, man, they're not really paying attention to all this, all this stuff, or really considering considering any vacated targets or all the rest, or the volatility of guys like Cowing and Pearsall. And it could just be, those guys could flame out, and it could just be Debo. It could be Debo, Kittle, and CMC once he gets back.
This is what I'm saying. I'm saying. And I'm also saying that even if it is a sophisticated league, emphasizing the high priority, making those trade talks happen, no matter what. Even if you are going up against one of the better competitors in your league and you're like, oh, God, this guy, I know the feeling. Yeah. Oh, this guy has Kittle? Oh, for Christ.
Great.
Right? God damn. What I'm saying is, and as opposed to spending more time on the waiver wire, go ahead and engage that guy, as painful as it's going to be, because the upside and the leverage at the position is so great that it is worth swallowing it and having a conversation with one of your least favorite league managers to do business with.
Not that guy, Matt. I can't do it anymore with this guy. I just can't do it. Not that guy. Just anyone in your league, but that guy, if they have Kittle.
But what I'm saying is, you want to go forward and engage that guy. I know that guy is that guy, I know we hate that guy, and that guy's he's a real dirtbag.
He's been a dirtbag since we were 16 years old.
That guy is that guy, he's always going to be that guy.
Not that guy.
But imagine how great it would feel if you did a deal with that guy, and then that guy, he's victory lapping on some short-term win that he thinks he got, and then as it turns out, Kittle has one of the epic fantasy playoff runs we've ever seen by a tight end, and then you take down the championship. Now, forever, you have the real victory lap on that guy.
It depends on that guy in my league's got a couple of victory laps. That guy's got a couple of victory laps. He can take on me too. But
I don't want to know what those are. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. As you know what? We are that guy. We are really that guy. We're the guy everyone's afraid of. If you're listening to this show, you are by definition that guy.
Oh, it's not that
everyone else that you think is that guy is really the beta that guy in your league. So you need to step up and be the alpha that you are, and don't be hesitant to overpay for George Kittle at this particular moment in time. And it's amazing. I put out this, bold prediction.
Overpay though.
I'm saying, this is what I'm saying.
What do you consider overpaying?
Like I said, it's a rare thing that a fantasy analyst will be like, okay, this is, you actually have to overpay because it's so easy. There's so many crutches that fantasy analysts will go to. Like, well, I said buy low. I didn't say overpay, right? I didn't say do that trade. I said go get player X. I didn't say give up player Y. That's insane. I said buy low, right? And what I'm saying is just buy. I'm saying overpay if you have to. That's what I'm saying. I'm not. I don't have any crutches here.
Let me think about a mock trade here for Kittle. What about, and what I would consider maybe an overpay? What about like a combo, a running back wide receiver combo to help out a team that like you're trying to do a consolidation and they need to do a liquidation. They need more players, right? You're the winning team. You're the alpha. You want to consolidate.
Okay, so you're going to go straight to, I'm going to give up quantity for quality, and these deals rarely ever happen, especially when you're trading with that guy. He always wants the best player in the deal.
He wants the best player in the deal. So you're going to have to give up somebody of some kind of import. So what if I say Tony Pollard and Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yes! Yes! This is it! Yes! Yeah. Oh my God, that's the trade!
So it's not a bad one.
That's too loud. Yeah. There we go. That's it.
That's the deal. That's the deal we're looking for, Alex. That's the deal right there.
Okay. But certainly not Rachaad White and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, not Rachaad White. And we're going to talk about Rachaad White in a minute, but I do want to complain about something, is that Theo and I, we did an incredible bold predictions video. It's been getting, tens of thousands of views on YouTube. And in that video, I said that Kittle would be the first tight end since Travis Kelce to average 20 fantasy points per game in the second half of the season. So,
what's going on here? My goodness. Oh,
adjust my hat there.
Okay.
And Theo said Kittle is healthy, or healthier than he's been in years, and that's another reason to go get him. And then we're about to drop the video, right? The video's been edited, right? We've spent hours and hours on this video, and about to put it up, and then the news comes out that Kittle has this foot injury, and I'm like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, it doesn't say he's going to miss the game. It doesn't say it's anything but minor. We didn't know. It didn't pop up during the game. If he left the game with it, we would have known, and we would also know it's serious. But he played through it, and it's only now surfacing. It's probably minor. I don't know. Fuck it. We're going live with this video. There's nothing we can do, right? It's such a condensed period. Every week we have like 2 days when we can do all of our research, create all of our content. And as soon as we dropped that video, the first comment on YouTube was, well, too bad George Kittle isn't actually healthy. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what, dude? You know what? All I know is that guy in our comments, he's never produced content, especially for fantasy football, because I'm here to say it's not easy. It's not easy. As you and I roll out of bed, put on a backward hat, turn the camera on with a cup of coffee in our comfy little studios, and just, watch sports and talk about sports all day and make money.
Brutal.
Right? What a difficult life we have, right? Oh my. This is a hellscape that we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
But man. I will say that talking football during the season, especially with fantasy football, we have Thursday night football and you have Monday night football, and then the way the news cycle plays out during the week, it can really fuck you. It can be frustrating if you put something together that you're proud of, no matter what it is, no matter how hard it was, whether it was something that required real actual sweat, or it was just a lot of mental effort to put together. It is one of the challenges that no one wants to hear about for creating content in fantasy football is this constant stream of news that can change everything as soon as you have a take.
Yeah, well, I mean, but look, man, I think that all right. So I think about like your podcast network and the operation that goes into it, right? And I wanted to ask you about some of that stuff, but like I think about it and I think to myself, like, I'll just say that, for us, like our team, it's like, it's me, it's Byron. Byron doesn't really even do content anymore. He runs the company. And then like there's Cody and Trash Man, and we have an admin who's our girl that handles customer stuff. And then we have our web guy, and he's like our marketing guy and he does website stuff. Right. And so with like the web guy and with our admin who also does our social media, I like long ago, I had to have a conversation with him. I'm like, dude, on Tuesdays, whenever I get this waiver wire podcast over to you, this thing needs to go up like now. Like, just, you got to remember, man, we get this thing to you at like 1:00 on Tuesdays, and it just needs to go up. It really needs to go up. Right. I'm about to do right after this show. I'm going to do the Blitz show with Cardi and stuff over there on Roto Grinders with Cardi and Chief. And like, right after that gets done, Cardi's like, it needs to go up, even though during that show, we'll be getting inactives and stuff through the course of the show. Not inactives, but the early East Coast Friday DMPs, right? And so we'll know about that stuff. But even with that, we're talking through the whole thing about, look, this is contingent on this is contingent on this, but he wants it up right then. And so I think when you guys was having, and maybe you could tell me, maybe just having, I know you, and I know you have such an emphasis on like editing stuff and making it cool, and like the Mind of Mansion, it's like there's some edits in there and some fun nuggets, and I know you like to put Easter eggs into stuff, and it's just you, like the kind of it makes the content better. But I think that for me, I'd like, if it's something like a waiver wire thing or something where it's like analysis about this, I just get it out as soon as possible. I don't, no edits, just put the music on at the beginning, music on at the end, just put it up. Right. Maybe that could be a way to help kind of solve for it. But I know it's different from situation to situation. You have how many podcasts on this thing? And I mean, I don't know how many people you have editing them or like how that works, but it feels like there could be a little bit more turnaround time from the time you do it live on YouTube to the time you get it up to the podcast feed.
Well, I'm very proud. John Adams helps to run our podcast channel. Does a great job administering the podcast. You look at our podcast channel right now, it's consistent 3 shows per day. Usually a show drops at 6 a.m. and then at noon and then either at 3 p.m. or usually 6 p.m. So 6 a.m., noon, 6 p.m. You're probably going to get a new podcast every 6 hours during the season. And if we can space it out and get enough shows to drop Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's the challenge, because we can't just dump all the shows on Friday. And that has created some consternation here this year. We did have some weeks where, for whatever reason, life comes up and show can't be fully produced until Friday, and now we have a logjam of 5 shows on Friday. Well, that doesn't do the listener any good. You can't listen to all those shows. What are you doing? You're just dumping podcasts into the void. It's not helpful. And so we were just always so, listener first, that sometimes it is to our own detriment. I agree. And I have come to terms with that. Like, I used to stay up till midnight editing these shows during the season, and it was killing me. And I decided, listen, I need to have less Easter eggs, maybe a few less sound effects, and I just have to lower my standards slightly in season. Like, for example, this week, I didn't do a Mind of Mansion show. just the schedule wouldn't allow it, especially if I'm going to do a Content King show. The Content King show is my favorite show. This is where I'm going to prioritize this fucking show. Okay. So there's just, I had this streak of I'm doing a Mind Dimension every week, unless it's in January, outside of January, the month of January. Every week I did a Mind Dimension show for like 5 years, and I had to just let this stuff go. I have to let the perfectionism go. I have to let this obsession that I have, we going the extra mile in the outtakes and things like that. During the season, you're just not getting as much of that, and I just want to let the listeners know that, full transparency, and because we are in survival mode during the season, but that's the beauty of the off season, is we do have a little more time and the content's a little more evergreen, and when we can have a little bit higher production quality. So everything you've said is correct, and I've already started to come to terms with it and make adjustments, and I think that's why this year has gone pretty smoothly. I mean, if your big complaint, right? If my big complaint is, we had 4 shows drop on a Friday, we're doing something right.
Yeah, dude.
So I have to check myself and be like, wait a second, we're doing something right here. This is great. And these buzzards that want to swoop in and be like, by the way, Adam Schefter just released a news item an hour ago that George Kittle actually has a foot injury. I don't know exactly when we dropped that video. It would be a point of pride if we were able to drop that video half an hour before the news comes out. Then we wash our hands of it. Be like, hey, this is the best we can do, everybody. We're just on the hamster wheel all season. It's also why
it's just the stat. I mean, it's just like it's the dynamic nature of the slate, dude. The slate doesn't stay the same through the whole week, man. We monitor the slate of games and we talk about them. We're like, what if this? What if, So I mean, it's. I think it's fine. I think that I think the whole Kittle thing is. I think the whole Kittle thing is fine. I don't think you and Theo need to worry about it. The video is getting tens of thousands of views, you said. So it's
tens of thousands. I mean, it got like exactly 10,000. Tens of thousands.
Tens.
So, the wide receiver injury apocalypse kind of came out of nowhere. Like we had, Malik Neighbors with a concussion. There's been wide receiver injuries this year. Certainly the Rams had their own wide receiver apocalypse. But other than the Rams, wide receivers have been relatively healthy this year. And then all of a sudden in 1 week, bang, right? So many teams just losing wide receivers off their fantasy teams. I mean, the 2 teams in particular, the 49ers, but also the Buccaneers. So how you play the Buccaneers team is another interesting, way to get leverage on your league mates. Who do you acquire? Who do you pick up? And I think the player that's the big beneficiary in Tampa was already revealed last week, and that's Rachaad White.
I think that, and I know you were super big on Rachaad White this year, and I wasn't quite as big on Rachaad White this year, but it wasn't because he was still somebody who I got some exposure to, and the people who use my cheat sheet got some exposure to, but it was just a matter of the construction that I wanted to do this year. And I think, if you've looked at all my fast draft stuff, you've seen that
I have.
I really just wanted to make an emphasis on it kind of bucked the trend. And it wasn't like I was out here talking about that I'm going to do this because I think customers wouldn't have wanted to hear it. It wouldn't have been good for marketing, but I wanted to go heavy with running backs early, man. I just did. And then so
what happened? Talk about your teams. Where are you at in fast draft?
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked after last
Open
week,
up the app.
Last week I was in first.
Open up the app. Last time I checked the app, you were either in first or second. And you had multiple teams in the top 5. And the consistent thing with your teams is it's just fast draft, you just draft 6 players.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why it's so fast. It's so easy, so fast. That's the beauty of fast draft. Fastdraft.app.
First place still. All right. Nice.
You're in first.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what about the other team? You have another team, though.
Let's see. So I have one in first. I have one. My next one down is actually in 11th, but I have one at 11th, one in 16th, And then my next one down is like 38th, but there's a bunch that are kind of in that same. That's still like $200 payout at 38th. So wow, that's a lot of a lot of them. And
What's
then
the
right there
first place
around
payout?
38th, a lot of them. 10K to first. So that feels nice seeing that 10K on Fast Draft next year.
You got to keep it up, man. As long as the wide receivers get hurt, not the running backs, you're going to be okay. And I love that we were talking about what a bust pick it was for you to go Javonte Williams on one of those teams in the 6th round. Now Javonte Williams looking pretty sweet. With Denver's defense being as suffocating as they are, they're just going to run the ball and play defense. That's what they're going to do for the rest of the year, and that's just going to play perfectly into the Javonte Williams touchdown equity. And he also has games where he catches 5+ passes.
Can you believe?
I mean, he's very useful for a team that doesn't have much wide receiver talent, that funnels more targets to Javonte Williams. So the same forces that are at play in Denver helping to propel Javonte Williams, those are some of the same things that propel Rachaad White. It's the least discussed dynamic that plays out, especially when multiple receivers go down for a team, is that the quarterback's going to have no choice but to check it down more.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to funnel targets, especially to a receiver playing running back, which is Rachaad White.
Yeah. It's just true. And like I said, I don't have that much of him because around the tier, and I thought he was a good pick. I thought he was good. I heard you talking about him in the preseason, and you get this guy in the 4th round going 0 RB teams or hero RB. I mean, I thought it was fine. It's just for me, it's like I fell in love with this construction where I could get Cooper Kupp, which obviously didn't turn out too great. He's been hurt the whole time, but Kupp, Neighbors, Devontae Smith, these sometimes Waddle, these types of players, and just Waddle clearly with the Tua thing has not been great, but Neighbors has really helped a bunch. And I thought that there was just value in there. If in rounds rounds 3 through 5, Rashee Rice again swindled on it, but it's like whatever. That was at least the line of thinking. So I didn't have as much Rachaad White, but there was a time there, dude, you got to admit there was a little bit of a worrisome time whenever, and it wasn't, you have to look too far back to think about the Sean Tucker stuff and to think about the stuff like we're going to actually play all 3 of these dudes and we're going to just see who gets the hot hand and we're going to roll with that guy. And now all of a sudden it's like back to hitting the nuts. It's like Bucky Irving. It's like, we'll see if he practices today, but he's probably, I don't know, like, is he gonna even go this week? And then it looks like after last week, I'm not sure how much they even really trust Sean Tucker, only giving him 20% of snaps last week. So in the same week where you see Rachaad White get like 6 targets, he goes for like 100, I don't know, 116 yards or something, a couple of touchdowns, yards from scrimmage. So I mean, I think it's looking back. It's looking now to where it's going to be in a time where if Bucky Irving takes a while to get what is the, let me look at his injury. So his injury is a toe. Oh gosh. So that's the kind of thing where if it's DNP, if we get another DNP and he's declared out early this week, this could be I don't know, dude. Turf toe's bad. Ask Curtis Samuel. You know what I mean?
James Cook. I mean, we're talking about a home game against the Falcons. I mean, Rachaad White's a must start this week. Rachaad White. The fact that the way Rachaad White's going to get there this season is a gruesome Chris Godwin injury is so painful for me, and that these are 2 of my guys. I mean, these are 2 of my guys, the guys I was drafting this year, and I'm just so intertwined historically with Chris Godwin and I. Like Chris Godwin's rise, his paralleled my rise in the industry, and one of my first big flag plants was Chris Godwin over Mike Evans in all formats, and that was seen as crazy. And then this year, Chris Godwin was like a top 5 fantasy receiver, and everything was clicking. And then at that very moment, that's when he goes. It's just, oh God. But the silver lining is you lose Godwin, but it does help Rachaad White.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Especially if I feel like it's a little bit I mean, it's been a real turn. It felt like things could have gone real. It felt like things could have gone real Travis Etienne like for a quick minute there, but you've avoided it.
He's back. Yeah, you had no idea. If I told you, Etienne and Rachaad White finished with the same fantasy points in 2024, no one would have been surprised. These are similar players.
Yeah.
Like if Rachaad White went to Clemson, he would have been Travis Etienne.
I kind of think, Etienne's a pretty good. Etienne's impressed me with some of his pass catching this year, but I mean, he's not Rachaad White, man. Matt, you've seen Rachaad White up close and personal. That guy's like, he's in his framing of the football. He's just very you look at all the scouting eval stuff on him, and I know the proof's in the pudding in the NFL level, but the fact is he's had a receptions based floor the whole time. But I thought he was actually going to be more. I thought he was going to be more of a kind of dynamic type of receiver. I thought he was going to have more like downfield catches and spectacular stuff just based on some of the stuff that we've seen from him in, all-star game settings and all the rest. But we know that doesn't always translate. It's turned out that he's just been a receiving maven, dude. It's like it didn't translate in quite as dynamic the way that I thought, but it's translated in a way that's been awesome for fantasy.
So we still have people in the chat that just want to continue to bring up Kyren Williams. They think it's funny to remind me that Kyren Williams has been a pretty productive fantasy running back this year.
Oh, sure. He has been. Yeah. He's a risky pick preseason.
Well, he's a risky pick at any point, and he's risky to have on your roster, especially in Dynasty, even right now. When he's getting, 23 carries, and he's giving you your 75 yards, but he's finding a way to get there with touchdowns. It's like, oh, did Cooper Kupp score a touchdown? No. Oh, no, the receiving touchdown went to Kyren Williams. Okay.
I thought Cooper Kupp got in for one last night, didn't he?
I'm saying generally speaking.
Okay.
Right? When you look up and you're like, oh, my God, Cooper Kupp had 10 targets. Why didn't he score? Oh, because Kyren Williams caught the dump off for a touchdown. I'm just saying. Yes. Yeah. Cooper Kupp had like 17 fantasy points.
Okay.
Last
I was going to say.
Cooper Kupp did fine. Yeah, Cooper Kupp was good. I'm just saying, Stafford had 4 touchdowns. So some of them will go to Kupp, some of them will go to Kyren Williams. Bottom line is Kyron's going to get there with touchdowns. But he is a sell in Dynasty. And just because another week peeled off the schedule and he didn't crater doesn't mean he's not still a sell. In fact, he's a better sell because he's gaining value in Dynasty. What's happening is you have this confirmation bias that the people that like him are now more and more and more and more sold on the fact that, this is a real bell cow. This is a player I can rely on. He's banked 7 games, 6-7 games where he hasn't gotten hurt and he's been productive. He did it last year. Okay, I'm sold. Right? Yeah. And then you look up on PlayerProfiler, Kyren Williams is like last place in our new EPX metric, explosive play rating. Well, if you watch the Rams play, you see a lot of Kyren Williams, but you don't see Kyren Williams making a lot of plays. You see Kyren Williams kind of getting the bare minimum most of the time. He runs hard. He's a good player, but he's a small running back who runs hard and isn't that elusive. That is not a recipe for long-term production in the NFL. You could keep going. Keep trolling me. Please, keep trolling me. Right? And waiting for me to say, oh, I was wrong, or no, I'm pivoting. No, I'm now actually you should buy high on Kyren Williams. Absolutely not. It's called conviction.
There's a couple things. All right. So first, just out of curiosity, is the EPX, is that just runs of 15 plus or receptions of 20 plus per opportunity?
No. There's a whole definition on playerprofiler.com. I could read it to you. That's explosive play rating is a comprehensive rating of a player's explosiveness, factoring in per play efficiency, total volume of explosive plays created. It is scaled at a 1 to 100 with league average at each position. That it blends passing, rushing, and receiving according to each player's usage. And pass plays over 20 yards, rush plays over 10 yards are
over
considered
10.
they're
Okay.
considered explosive.
Well, everybody has different definitions of explosive, so that's the way that I chart them is 15 and 20.
Yeah, so we're doing 20 and 10. 10
Okay.
for pass plays, over 10 over 20 for pass plays, over 10 for rush plays.
All right, two things. So I'm in a dynasty league, one of these ones that's like the with just like a bunch of killers, dude, like Danny Kelly and Scott Barrett, and I can like I'm forgetting some of them, but like good players, right? Curtis Patrick and stuff. And this is a league where it's like I'm trying to win this year, right? But I do have Kyron Williams in that league, and I think that right now, I do agree. Last year, I was trying to sell Kyron Williams. I was trying. No one would take the bait, right? No one. And
can you just so we're clear, okay? This is a league of killers, and when you tried to offload Kyron Williams, there were no takers.
Not for what I wanted. I wanted a one. I wanted a one. I wasn't gonna or at least a good young player and a two. You know what I mean? And no one would do it. And this year I would go a little bit down on it, but I keep trying to think. I'm like, man, I think, man, to win in this league, there's some teams that are good teams too. I think I might need them, and so I think sometimes in dynasty, sometimes even though it's like, man, this is going to be an asset that declines in value. It's like there's also value in having a dude that, at least right now, is doing this for you.
He's a ticking time bomb, Alex.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. It's like it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, well, I hope that the time bomb, I hope that it's set to where I can just get through week 17, and then if it blasts off after that, fine.
This isn't Aaron Jones, okay? So this is the thing.
But dude, he's
just
only
because a guy is a day 3 pick and is small doesn't mean I'm going to fade him, right? I take a comprehensive view of these players. And when Aaron Jones finally got an opportunity, it was well-deserved because his explosive play rating, if we had one 5 years ago, would have been top 5 in the league. He is explosive. He is one of the more athletic, dynamic running backs in the league. He just happened to go to a small school, UTEP, and get drafted in day 3. But when he finally got his opportunity didn't come until the Vikings. Didn't come until this year to be a proper workhorse back in the league. Whereas Kyron's luck boxed into, well, I guess it's me because it's either me or Ronnie Rivers in 2023. Well, Aaron Jones wasn't that fortunate. Aaron Jones has been a buy in dynasty for years and years and years and years because he's very different from Kyron Williams. He can accelerate away from trouble on the football field. He's not taking the huge hits, snap after snap after snap that Kyron Williams is, and he's also giving you a lot more explosive plays and efficiency on a per touch basis, and that will sustain him so that he can get a second and a third contract as he has. But if Kyron Williams can't escape from some of these huge hits, eventually they're going to catch up to him, and you may not have him for the fantasy playoffs. That's the danger.
Well, I get it, man, but I mean, I'm trying to say for people like out there, it's fine to try and trade away Kyron Williams, but you don't have to just consider my situation. So this is a team where it's a super flex league, tight end premium, where I have Burrow and I have Dak, right? But then if I look at my running backs, I have ETN, which is worrisome right now. I have Christian McCaffrey, which is I'm just going down with the ship with Christian McCaffrey. I'm not gonna be traded. I'm just gonna ride into the sunset.
Yeah, you have to ride that out.
And then like I have guys like Chuba Hubbard, who's about to be turned into absolute smithereens. Guys like this, where it's
Are you sure about that?
Jay. Unless they just tell Jay Brooks, it's like, hey, dude, just sit this one out until next season.
Until next season.
But then, I have the wide receivers and guys like, this team has like CeeDee Lamb and Cup, and I guess Olave is a little bit worrisome, but DK Metcalf and Zay Flowers and Jaden
You haven't been able to
Reed.
pick up any other running backs. This is a difficult league.
Well, no, I mean, no. Oh,
this
dude,
is a competitive league. If that's all you have at running back.
Oh no, I mean, I've guys like Devin Singletary and Ray Davis and
you have Ray Davis
like this. Yeah, but it's like I'm not happy about getting him in. So it's like if you're in a league like that where your team's good, I mean, I'm just riding with Kyron and I'm going to try and win a championship. And if the time bomb blows up in my face, that's the cost of trying to win a championship, man. But I like to win in Dynasty. I don't like to have the team that looks prettiest by every.
I hope you win. Now that I know that you have a Kyron Williams, there's so few people that I know.
Yeah, right.
That have Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
Because he's the ultimate donk play. And of course you can always luck box a league winning running back. It's very possible. It's not impossible. You can always do it. It's just not likely if a player has the Kyron Williams profile. But now that I know that you have this team, this makes me like Kyron Williams more because I really want you to win with this team. I want you to get McCaffrey back, and I want you to go win with this team.
Let me ask you this: so in Dynasty, 24-year-old Kyron Williams or 26-year-old Josh Jacobs? Is that a look of like? I can't tell if that's a look of like. That's a tough question you just asked me, or that's a look. I can't believe you would even have those guys close. It's like that look didn't tell me anything.
I just wanted to do a freeze look. I wanted to do the freeze look and just see what you thought. I thought because I don't have an answer to that. Like I know, I think it's about equal. You get 2 years. One guy has the 2 years. One guy is a better proven player. The durability is what's proven with Josh Jacobs more than anything else. Where I just think that you lull people into a false sense of security with the Kyron Williams durability. But in your particular case, especially with Devin Singletary and Travis Etienne trending absolutely in the wrong direction,
yes,
it's going to be very difficult to let go of Kyron Williams. I totally get it. It is interesting, though. I will say, when there is an upgrade at quarterback or there is an opening of target share on a team, the running back is the first place I look. And when I read analysis from fantasy, fantasy research experts, when I read fantasy analysis, it's the last thing they mention. Like, you do realize that Jameis Winston is a boon for Nick Chubb.
The whole offense.
But Nick Chubb, the guy that's going to score more touchdowns than anyone else because of Jameis Winston is Nick Chubb. It's not Jerry Jeudy. And yet it's all I hear is Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy. And it's like, no. Actually, Nick Chubb is the great ad right now. Incredible. Like, if you could do a deal where you could trade Kyron for Nick Chubb, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, but I don't like those. I don't trade like that, man. Like I that's not how I do trades because
you don't like lateral moves.
Yeah. Well, it's just like it's one of those where it's like, I mean, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. I like to go into the trades and just say, like, look, the way that I identify trade partners in my league is I'll go in there and I'll say, like, if I'm weak in this one spot, and I say maybe they're weak in another spot, and we can do something that, like, that's my pitch to people, right? Like, that's the kind of the way that I know how to trade. It's like, this move makes your team better, it makes my team better, stuff like that. Generally, since I do this for a living, if I'm in, and I'm in just a ton of home leagues and stuff like that, people just, if I try and make that trade, which I'm not sure I would for season long, but if I tried to make it, they'd be like,
no, that's not a 1-for-1 deal. What I'm saying is, hey, I give you Kyron, you in Dynasty, and you give me Nick Chubb and
Chris Olave,
Roshan
Bilo.
and a second rounder. Like, you figure out how you want to structure it,
Yeah,
and
okay.
Jacob Cowing, or you just you set it up. Jalen McMillan. What do you think of Jalen McMillan?
I love Jalen McMillan, but I'm with you. I think that it's kind of like the whole kind of the whole Judy thing. I mean, I think that you mentioned Judy. I mean, Cedric Tillman had like what 12 targets. So I mean, but I think with McMillan, it's just a question of, okay, he in college he was like a slot machine in college, right? Because on the outsides, you had two guys, when Jalen Polk and Rome. And it was like Jalen McMillan was the guy you looked at, and you could see almost a little bit of Keenan Allen in his game.
Oh,
but he goes to, well, I mean, he's a G in the slot, dude. He's really, really good. But they haven't played him.
He's better than Jalen Polk, period.
Oh, if you ask Cody, he'd say no. If I think Rome is just so far ahead of both of them, and I kind of put both those guys on the same plane, but just different types. It's like, what type do you like? Jalen Polk. Whenever I was talking at the combine to the old DBs coach for Washington, and I'm like, well, what's it like going up against those guys in practice? And he's like, well, it's so pick your poison, because Rome is just the all around operator, right? He's the elite. The elite. He's like the special forces, like the elite of the elite, right? But you have Jalen Polk, who's the alpha of the group, right? Who considers himself the big dog, who total my ball mentality, always jawing it up, all the rest of it. And then you have Jalen McMillan, who is just so smooth, and he has this ability to find these soft spots in the zone, and he's got hands as good as Rome, whereas Jalen Polk doesn't and stuff. So I think that there are things to their profiles that I like, but if I had to rank them, I would rank them. It's very close between McMillan and Polk, the way that I saw them as prospects, but I would have ranked them Rome. I think Rome, McMillan, Polk. Then
who would you add right now in seasonal leagues? Would you rather have McMillan or Ricky Pearsall?
I think I might rather. Man, Baker's been good this year, dude.
Dude, the answer is McMillan.
Yeah, and Mike Evans is out for at least. I mean, whenever
McMillan. I mean, 49ers lost Ayuk, Buccaneers lost Godwin and Mike Evans for a period of time, and McMillan slots into the Godwin role.
Yeah, I think that they were both excellent pickups. Slots in. I was kind of hoping that, they have Liam Cohen out there, who's used to be with the Rams. I was kind of hoping that all that Cooper Kupp buzz might have been, some kind of trade to the Rams. I don't know if they have the money to do it, although they've said that they'll pay for it. They just want a second rounder. Look, I think that it'd be McMillan, but I think that Pearsall is a super good pickup too.
Okay. So in this dynasty league, okay, you send Kyren Williams and you get back a second rounder, McMillan, Roshan, and Chubb. Do you do it?
I mean, I think if I got cheap, I think I'd probably do that.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. That's a deal that you could potentially get done in a dynasty league. Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. Do you think that is good enough? Is that enough value for Kyren Williams in dynasty?
Does it? But and also with the thing about Kyren, it's that at what point are we gonna figure out what exactly they were trying to do with drafting Blake Corum with that kind of draft capital? Like,
are you answering your own question?
Maybe.
Is this rhetorical?
No, well, it's just like, dude, Matt.
Dude, you're making my argument for me. Of course it's going to be the Blake Corum show starting whenever. This is early days in the season.
I feel like
they know what they're doing.
I'm not arguing.
They're burning up whatever is left on the tread of Kyron Williams. They know what they're doing. They have no intention of paying this guy. They went out and drafted Blake Corum for a reason, because that's their anchor running back. That's the guy they want to be a lifetime Ram. And the last thing they want to do is go out and get Blake Corum hurt in the first half of his first season. They're not going to do that.
Matt, they like, I like, you know, we got guys out on the Rosterwatch training camp tour, right? We got Byron out on the West Coast, and Cody went East Coast, and Trash Man goes up to the middle, the gut of the country, up to Chicago and stuff like that, right? And all around the Rust Belt. And Byron was sending me the videos in from just like footage that would just like a news organization would just call like B-roll stuff, just like guys walking off the field and stuff. And dude, I saw Kyron and Blake Corum walking off the field, and it just hit me, dude. These two look like brothers. They look exactly alike. They're the exact same size. One wears like 22, one wears 23, I think. They are the same size. They have the same body features. They look they look exactly alike. Their faces even kind of look alike. They look like they could be brothers. Look at these two guys next to one another and tell me that it's like it's a complete redundant asset. And so if I began to think, I was like, dude, if why would they draft somebody that's a redundant asset? Why would they not, if they wanted to take tread off of Kyron's tires and they wanted to have somebody that's like a little bit of a yin and yang, you know, 1A, 1B, thunder and lightning, whatever you want to call it, that wasn't it. These guys are very similar. They look the same. And so I think that also lends credence to your argument that maybe they're just saying, all right, Cooper Kupp, let's just see if we can trade him away. What are you doing? You showing me a picture of Corum from the weight room?
What are you talking about?
They look alike, dude. I mean, I can show you the photo. Like, I can pull.
Do you think Kyron's this jacked?
Well, maybe he's a little. I'm talking about when they're walking off the football field in pads.
Right. But this is what's under the pads. You know that they're pads, right? You know pads don't count. You know this is his actual body.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, they could be brothers. Absolutely, they could be brothers. But you know, just because not twin brothers, they're just regular brothers. One guy got the jack genes and the other guy didn't.
You're trying to make this out to be some kind of cockamamie. What is it? Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. This is not how it goes. This is not how it goes. We're not talking about it like that. They can be twins. They can be twins.
How did you do that? How did you pull the movie Twins from 1988? That is amazing. By the way, that is the best year. I did some research.
Yeah.
And I tried to find, because you know, there's been this long debate, and again, we're going to lose listeners over this. We've already lost listeners because of all the self-indulgence. We're going to continue to self-indulge. This is what we do. We self-indulge and lose listeners. Okay. And so and repeat the same talking points over and over and over again. We're going to get right back into how caffeinated is your coffee very soon and just alienate everybody. But Dan Williamson and I, we went hard with Back in My Day and how, you know, everything, books, movies, television shows, well, not television shows, but books, movies, music, all better in the 80s and 90s. And then so I went back and I looked, and it turned out the peak of civilization was 1988. That was the year Twins came out, the movie Twins.
Oh, yeah. What?
I mean, you can't even believe it. I mean, it was when Tom Cruise had his 3 different hits. It was a cocktail. I mean, you can't. It's just, even Daniel Day-Lewis had. I mean, it was just every.
Dude, don't tell me that Pretty Hate Machine came out.
Everything was coming out. I mean, it was 88 was just, that was a peak of civilization moment. Was
1980, 1989, Nine Inch Nails drops Pretty Hate Machine. Okay, so like it could have been just a little bit downhill from there, but that was a good time. That is not Corum and Kyron.
This is Corum and Kyron. This is what I'm saying.
No, that's not right.
This is what I'm trying to say. 1988, man. It doesn't get any better. Put it in the chat. You agree? Disagree? Let me know. Oh yeah, 1988 was a great year for hip hop. That's true. That's actually true. Run DMC. There was a whole bunch of great hip. I mean, 1988 was incredible, right? I think, it was really good. It was a really good year. I went back and looked. I looked at all the movies, TV shows, music on the Billboard charts, everything, and it was something else. It was something else. We'll never have that again. And even like as a kid, right? Do you even realize all the toys that were out then? All the epic toys and these and the collectible toys from 1988.
No, I didn't even.
We're talking about Cabbage Patch dolls. We're talking about Transformers, G.I. Joe, just the whole thing. These things, if you have these things in a box, right, unopened, they're worth thousands of dollars now. All it's just telling you, moment in time, peak of civilization. That was like the peak of the Roman Empire for the United States. Was 1988.
That was a great time, man.
I mean, fight me on this. Fight me. I think
so.
Public Enemy came out with their big record that year too.
Yeah. 88 was great. 98 was great. I thought it was great.
I think 98 was worse.
Yeah.
Then I would probably, if I had to pick a year in the 90s, I'd probably go 93 or 94. That everything was really, really humming along. It's just, Kurt Cobain has to be alive.
Okay, I get it.
I think Kurt Cobain has to be alive if you're going to be picking a year in the 90s. I think post Cobain, that's when things started to really fall apart.
But didn't like 10 and like Angel Dust and like Pearl Jam 10, Faith No More, Angel Dust, the Metallica Black Album.
That's all 91.
Okay, well that was the year.
Well, that's all 91. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Nevermind. I mean, Nevermind may have been late 1990, but or 1991.
Soundgarden had Bad Motorfinger.
Yeah, it all lined up. All those first albums or
Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion.
Use Your Illusion. I think that was 1990. So we're talking about basically, if you're talking about like let's say November 1990 to October 1991. That was, for music, that was probably the best 12-month period you'll ever find.
But I think that was also the period whenever Schwarzenegger had the movie where he was pregnant.
That might have been. Okay. That might have been. All I know is my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Let's put this in the chat as well. And that's another thing I love about Content Kings is I say that I don't want to go down these tangents and alienate the audience, but I actually do. But that's what the Content Kings is all about. We are already the kings of content, so we are doing a show where we just improvise and talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about at any given moment. Sometimes we talk about our respective businesses. Sometimes we talk about guys you should trade for or pick up in fantasy football. And sometimes we talk about the movie Twins. It just depends. And so this is what I want to talk about. And my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and anyone put it in the chat, let us know in the comments your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Mine is True Lies.
Is that the one with his wife? Like, I think his wife's pretty hot in that one. And there's something with the car salesman.
Yes.
Yes. I forgot exactly. What is that movie about again?
He is a spy. Arnold Schwarzenegger works for
the car salesman up over the side of a cliff or something like that and makes him pee his pants.
Well, that is one of the great moments. I think rest in peace, by the way. I think he's no longer with us, the car salesman.
Oh.
Because he was also in Alien, I believe, or Aliens.
Yeah, that guy for sure.
Yeah, that guy was great. So let's look this up. Let's make sure we give everybody proper credit. So it was Schwarzenegger, of course, and Jamie Lee Curtis. We know she slicked her hair back, remember, and she did the striptease scene, which was super cool and creative. Tom Arnold, I mean, hilarious. So for me, just a straight action movie isn't enough. I need the comic relief. And Tom Arnold and that dynamic he had with Arnold, the actual Arnold, the Arnold dynamic.
It's coming back to me. Like that's his boss at the CIA or something, right?
Well, yeah, it's his sidekick. It's his like CIA sidekick. And then Bill Paxton, he was the car salesman.
That's right.
He was pretending to be in the CIA, and he was wooing Jamie Lee Curtis by pretending to be in the CIA. And the irony was Arnold actually was in the CIA, and he was pretending to be just a corporate salesman, like selling paper or whatever. And he's like, you could tell he was fuming. He was so mad at this guy for stealing his own actual identity and then using it against him to try to woo his wife. That also was the movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger jumped off a building while riding a horse.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he convinced, because I grew up with horses, I know a horse is never going to do that. Right. And I think what ended up happening was the first time they tried, the horse didn't want to go. And then he goes the second, and it's like, no, that's never going to happen, dude. The horse is never going to jump.
Well, I mean, what's going to happen is the horse is just going to take you right to the side,
and that's what he did.
And then you're gonna fall your ass
right over. And that's the thing. If that were to actually happen,
all the way down.
This always happens in movies where the guy almost falls off when the horse stops, or you think he's over the cliff, but he's actually hanging on by one arm. Like you can't hold on by one arm. That's not possible. You will always fall. Even if you're like one of the best rock climbers, you're going to fall. Okay? That's not going to happen. But again, this is not, it's suspension of disbelief when you're in these movies. You just want to watch a big movie, and you're watching this big action movie, and then you have Tom Arnold coming in and making fun of the hero in a way that is just, it's just so beautifully timed. I want to go watch it right now. It's a truly incredible movie. I think it's one of the more underrated movies that's ever been, and it was probably right in that time period that we're talking about.
Yeah, it was a super good flick, man. It's like, and that just the image, man, of that horse running to the side of the top of the building, coming to a halt, and throwing you over the top just to go splat on the ground is almost exactly how I feel about how this whole run out's going to go with me and trying to hold on to Kyron Williams and Dynasty.
But also with Fast Draft, you're trying to run out on Fast Draft. You're in first right now.
Yeah, well, but that thing, I feel like I can run out the clock on that thing because
I know.
Those are actually good.
I know. And now,
look, I think Kyron's good. I'm just worried. I'm just worried. Those guys, I'm not worried about any. Like, I forgot who's even on that team, but it's just the way I do. I mean, if you can get your stud, I think that team is Jamar Chase, and then if you can just get your stud wide receiver, then I just went running back heavy, man. It's just like loaded up a bunch of stuff. Like, why not take Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara with your next 3 picks? I mean, why not?
The third round Derrick Henry was all the second round Saquon Barkley on Fast Draft and all the third round Derrick Henry. All a masterstroke. And then you have like the nuts of the nuts. When I was looking, I saw, I don't want to say Jamar Chase, Saquon, Derrick Henry, Kamara, Zay Flowers.
But there's another
Javonte Williams. That was a team I saw at one point.
I'll tell you this team.
There was another team that had that similar structure, but with Kenneth Walker in the 5th round. I was like, whoa.
This one is Chase, Barkley, Henry, Kamara, Mixon, Zay Flowers.
Mixon, oh my God, Mixon!
Total boomer team, dude. Boomer team. But it's the structure this year, man.
You did it. You killed it. So we are in the process of testing to roll out the Fast Draft DFS soon. So Fast Draft DFS coming soon. Everyone pay attention to your email, these shows, social media. You'll know when we also go to playerprofiler.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. And we send a weekly newsletter. We don't spam you. It's just once a week, and all the must-read articles, social media posts, and the news items. And so if there's any big news with Fast Draft, you'll know just from the Player Profiler newsletter. And so a question I have is, okay, so we know that Daniel Jones is helped by Malik Neighbors, just like we know that Sam Darnold is helped by Justin Jefferson. I think that's the best example of all the bad quarterbacks that are still under center around the league. The one that's being helped the most by his alpha wide receiver has to be Sam Darnold. And a question I've asked many analysts, but I don't think I've ever asked you, is how much do you believe a wide receiver helps a quarterback? And that's really going to matter when you're evaluating what to do with Brock Purdy the rest of the way, what to do with Baker Mayfield the rest of the way. It's important to know generally, have a general heuristic about, okay, on average, how much do wide receivers propel quarterbacks?
Well, I think it's probably different for different styles of quarterbacks. I think that some quarterbacks are just, I mean, you know how it is, man. Like the tide that lifts all boats kinds of guys, right? Like I think that Jaden Daniels is like that. I think he's like that.
Do you know what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, I mean, you're saying, well, I mean, you're kind of asking. I don't necessarily. I mean, I think guys like Matt Stafford are like dudes that actually elevate the guys around them. Jaden Daniels. But I do think that there are certain quarterbacks that they're the ones that aren't of the best pedigree and stuff. That yes, of course. I mean, of course, having Malik Neighbors, you can feed 14 targets a game to. Of course, of course that helps. Of course, it helps Justin Jefferson.
Okay, let's just do the easiest possible example. Let's use Sam Darnold. Okay, where would you have Sam Darnold ranked if Justin Jefferson were not in Minnesota? If it were just Jordan Addison and Jalen Naylor and soon-to-be TJ Hawkinson, where would you have Sam Darnold? How do you think Sam Darnold would be doing this year? How would he be regarded versus with Justin Jefferson on the squad?
I think he'd be playing better, and we'd still be surprised by it because Kevin O'Connell's really good with these guys. I think he is, but he wouldn't be anything that we would be considering. It's like, people talk about him as, if they make a deep run and stuff like that, that he could be an MVP, the league MVP. That's an impossibility without Justin Jefferson and his explosive playmaking. It just is.
They want us to get back to 90s movies, and we could absolutely talk 90s movies for we'll pivot back to this. Listen, trust me, right? You subscribe to this channel, you listen to this podcast because you trust me. Okay, that's one of the reasons why most of you are here. I will circle back to this topic of how much do wide receivers matter to their quarterbacks. We're going to get to that. I have a couple other topics too. We're not going to forget football. We're not forgetting football here. But the chat has spoken. So, what's your favorite movie from the 90s?
When did Fight Club come out? That was 2000s, right?
Ooh, yeah, I think that was just in the 2000s. I can look that up. By the way, Fight Club, interestingly enough, Fight Club bombed at the box office.
Fight Club's the best movie that's ever created. But I would say if Fight Club is in there, it would be Fight Club.
No, it's 1999. You did it.
It's Fight Club.
You got it. Yours is Fight Club. Okay, 1999. Wow, that is such a 1999 movie.
Yeah.
I mean, 1999 was the most testosterone-soaked year in the history of the world.
What year was Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction was, I think, 1991. Pulp Fiction, in my mind, when I think about Pulp Fiction, I think about like Nirvana, Nevermind, Pearl Jam 10, Pulp Fiction. I think
Yeah,
about it
okay.
all in the same. I believe that's all the same time period.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So that would be up there for me too. And I think Big Lebowski.
Seinfeld.
Yeah.
That's all the same. I think that's all the same thing. There's so many. It's actually it's difficult, and so many of them have become cliche because we talk. Bill Simmons for so many years talked about Shawshank Redemption and how that's the best movie, and how always forcing parallels to Shawshank Redemption, the forced parallels from Bill Simmons. Can't get enough of those forced parallels, Bill.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even get that. I didn't grow. Is that a New England thing to grow up listening to Bill Simmons? Is it
Bill
'cause he's a
Simmons, yes, he was a Boston writer.
okay? All right.
Right, he was a Boston sports writer following the Red Sox most famously, and yeah, he would do a lot of like live blogging. So
Mhm.
like while the Celtics were playing live, he would be writing a column, and then he would publish the column right after the game was over, and it
Okay.
basically tracked everything he was thinking about during the game, and then he would tie certain players and events back to sports and movies, and he would intertwine culture in there, and that was an innovative thing back then. And then he parlayed that into his own platform, Grantland at ESPN, but ESPN owned Grantland, and then he said, okay, enough of this, I want to own my own content and run my own platform. And then he got funding, and he did The Ringer, and that's been sort of one of the few sports media success stories in the last 10 years. A lot of sports media
Dude, did they
has
just hire
struggled.
Todd McShay? Did they just hire Todd McShay?
Maybe
Is that true? Because if they just hired Todd McShay, then that means that they have to be making a bunch of money, right? It's not like that guy come. You know what I mean? Did I see that, or am I just making it up?
The Ringer hires Todd McShay. It's absolutely right. Wow, look at
Dude,
you.
well, I mean, that's like. I mean, I've been so tilted not to see him on draft. We talked about this at the draft house, man. The beautiful draft house this year, by the way. We're
The
never going to
draft
top that.
house
We're
in
never
2024 will
topping that
not be
one.
topped.
No, it's like if you try and top that, you're gonna just blow out your like. I don't even know how you afforded that to begin with, dude. But
The
I'm just
Lodge.
saying anything nicer than that thing is gonna like you're gonna start you're gonna start looking at something that costs more than a car to take everybody out here to this deal.
Can't do it. Can't
I
do
think
it.
we'll
Listen,
look
man,
back at that hot
I
water mark.
I have carved out one big blowout event per year to let everybody know, all the key employees at the company know, hey, you're appreciated. And, this whole thing we're doing is more than the sum of its parts. And I believe for morale that is important. I think it's important also to create those human in-person connections.
Yeah,
And
man.
while, it's difficult to actually put a valuation on that, right, on the ledger, right, when you're going through the expenses, that would be an easy one to cut. But then think about all the money we're saving. So how I justify this as the CEO is I say, well, think about all the money we're saving on office space. Think about all the money that we're saving by being remote. But there's a cost to that. There's an underlying cost to that in that we don't have the human connection that you would have if we were physically on premise, right? So how do we find a way to solve for that? Well, we block out this one 6-day period on the calendar where we can all go on a Tuesday, fly out on a Sunday or a Monday, and spend close to a week together. It's not just about the coverage of the NFL draft. I mean, the day before, we all went to a bowling alley, and we went to karaoke, and it was just I thought it was an important thing. A lot of people really go above and beyond here at Player Profiler. You think about Jason Allwine. Think about Jason Allwine every morning at 10 a.m. You're running all our social media channels.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this guy is invaluable. And
Goes
so when
goes
I'm
in
thinking about what
efficiency
we're going
and
to
down
do,
efficiency.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
about how can we make sure that someone like Jason Allwine feels like he's getting the proper value in return for what he's putting in at Roto Underworld, at Player Profiler. And so when
Yeah.
you put it in that context, if you're writing a check for something greater than say $10,000, where when you add it all up, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But when you actually break it down by, what are you paying people? What are all the expenses throughout the year? What could the expenses be? Because again, I grew up before remote work. Like, the first 10 years of my career, I was going into the office every single day. Working from home wasn't a thing, right? Even though the internet
It was.
existed, it wasn't part of the culture at all. And I remember what
I grew up with
that
two
office
parents.
space cost, right? And so that's how you justify. You're like, okay, we're not paying this line item, but we instead can do this line item because that company did virtually nothing from sort of a an employee morale. That really wasn't a priority, right? The outing that we would do was pretty pretty minimal. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll flip the script. We're not going to have a physical location, but our one big employee outing is going to be fucking epic.
Yeah, man. It's turned into something awesome, and I've been glad. I'm not clearly. I don't work for you, but I've enjoyed. I've been there for all of them, man, and I hope it'll be a tradition that we can keep as many of the original amigos keep on like Anna and Cody and just all, like it's always so good to see everybody again.
We might be back. We might be going to Florida. So just so everybody knows, I've done my research. Like, this is the time when we start researching this. We have to get out ahead of this. And there's no place in Green Bay that can accommodate us.
Oh, I didn't even really. Yeah, okay.
There's not. I've looked, and
Yeah.
the few places that are even possible are exorbitantly expensive already. It's like if you wanted to go there a month earlier, then it would be a tenth of the price.
Oh, okay.
But so all the pricing has adjusted for the demand already, and it's just like it's.
Well, it's a town that's not built for an NFL football team anyway. Really, it was built for an NFL football team back when they started a long time. It's like not built for what they've become now, and that's why it's just they say it's really hard to get hotels and stuff like that. And it's just
it's not possible.
It's a totally small market.
So I'm thinking we go to Tampa, Florida.
Oh yeah, dude. Hey, I love Florida.
Yeah, man. We go to Tampa, Florida.
Florida. We could have Byron come by the draft house.
We could bring Byron up.
Yeah,
I'm thinking we could get that. Might be a way to get Alan Soslowski. We haven't had Alan in the house yet.
Oh, Alan will come. He's right there in town, dude.
Alan's in Jacksonville. He can just drive across the state. So I'm already at the I've been perusing some houses, and the houses you can get for the money right now in Tampa. Woo! Baller.
Yeah, you want to, as long as you're looking at Tampa, man, you might also just look at Sarasota where Byron lives. That's a cool little town that's right next to Tampa. But maybe it's even cheaper.
I'll look at Sarasota. I'm open to a lot of things. I'm open to different things. I am. So getting back to this heuristic, okay? Godwin and Evans are impossible to replace.
Yep.
They certainly fueled some of Baker Mayfield's production above league average, right? Because going into it, you're like, oh yeah, Baker Mayfield at best is a league average quarterback. Suddenly he's crushing it. Why is that? Yeah. Well, it's Godwin after the catch. It's the attention that defenses have to pay to Mike Evans, and that helps to drive the production of Baker Mayfield. Now he doesn't have those those weapons. Doesn't have the attention of defenses. He doesn't have those bonus yards after the catch from Chris Godwin. Now he's going to be throwing a lot more dump off passes to Rachaad White, and those just have less upside. What's the difference in fantasy point scoring with Baker Mayfield with those starting receivers and without?
How much do you dock?
I mean, that Mayfield and Sam Darnold are the two best examples that I can provide to give a sense for, okay, you remove an elite receiver or two, and this player goes from 18 fantasy points a game down to 14 fantasy points a game, or down to 12 fantasy points a game. Like, how many fantasy points are we talking about?
So he was at 0.69 fantasy points per attempt previously. Was he getting, like, gosh, man, Baker really has been good. He's 23 fantasy points a game. I mean, gosh, it's better than, like, it's 4 points a game better than Josh Allen. I didn't realize that it was that distinct. Is he, like, what is he? Is he quarterback 2?
Yeah, he's got a 70% completion percentage. He's also running the ball. He's ran the ball as much this year as he did all of 2023.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem, Matt. Like, it's like all of this conspires to swindle Baker, because it isn't like he can just take the mantle of just like, all right, well, now I'm losing these guys, I'm just going to run more. He can't run more. He's too puny. He'll get hurt. You know what I mean? So it's like, it isn't just like Josh Allen loses all his guys or whatever. You know what I'm saying? He's going to run more. Lamar has everybody out. He's going to run more. It's like, you can't do that if you're Baker. We're talking about a guy that it's really nice that he gets you in just a really organic 23 yards a game on true scramble stuff, right? But I just think his fantasy points per attempt, I don't think there'll be as many attempts. You know, I don't think he's going to average 34 attempts per game anymore. That just seems like too much. If he does average 34 attempts per game, then what we need to do is start getting our minds and our bodies ready for 10 target Jalen McMillan and 10 target Sterling Shepard and stuff. Do you see that happening?
Well, last year, Baker Mayfield with Mike Evans and with Chris Godwin. Again, it wasn't Chris Godwin at the peak of his powers like he had this year. 16.7 fantasy points a game for Baker Mayfield. Okay. That's with 28 passing touchdowns. He already has 18 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, man.
So I think that he's more 15 fantasy points per game moving forward. I think he's a strong sell. I think you get the hell out. There's no way that your league mates will project Baker Mayfield to score 8 less fantasy points per game. It's just very difficult for anyone to process that, because part of his 24.2 fantasy points per game has been just variance, just positive variance. Things have broken right for him. The schedule, there's been lots of factors that have led to this, where it's a mediocre quarterback who in a full season was QB 17, now QB 2. Right? I think it's possible that he craters all the way back to Baker Mayfield from 2021, where he put up 14 fantasy points a game. That's how much receivers matter to these fringe quarterbacks. And that's why when you see a fringe quarterback like a Darnold go to a team with a proper top 5 alpha, or like Baker Mayfield go to a team that has 2 high-quality receivers, Godwin at the peak of his powers and a Hall of Famer in Mike Evans. So if you have one of these elite duos, like that duo in Miami, Hill and Waddle, they make Tua a viable option, right? Tua would be down in the, into the QB 25 zone.
But he means everything to those guys. He means
right. I know, but he needs them in order to become like QB 20.
But
like they propel him to like QB 20, but they also need him, because we've seen them with Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson. Yeah. So of course they both matter to each other. course, this is a symbiotic relationship. It's I think the quarterback still, because the ball emanates from the quarterback, them dropping back, it's released from them. They are a necessity, right? A receiver without a quarterback, if you had me back there, every receiver in the league would have 0 fantasy points with me at quarterback. Okay? Well, not necessarily 0, but I would throw it up, and once in a while, Mike Evans could come down with a 50-50 ball. So they'd be at like 2 fantasy points a game.
Yeah.
With me, right? So knowing that, of course, the quarterback matters more to the receiver than the receiver matters to the quarterback. But I think that the receiver matters more than sports analysts typically will talk about or believe to be true, and that leads to a sell window opening up for not only Baker Mayfield, but also even a Brock Purdy in seasonal leagues. I think Brock Purdy losing Brandon Ayuk really matters.
Yeah, I think it matters more for the guys that you would consider mid-level, and that's a whole other discussion about whether you consider Brock Purdy to be high-level or a mid-level quarterback. And I only had like 5 minutes before I got to do the Blitz show over on Roto Grinders. But speaking of Tua, so he cleared concussion protocol. He'll play. That's happened there's been some news during the show. Todd Bowles says Bucky Irving is in play for Sunday, but he didn't say he's going to play. He just said that he's in play. And then Jaden Daniels, they'll evaluate his status over the next 48 hours. But he did wind up practicing today, and he said that we really pushed it. So we could have Jaden Daniels. It's looking like Bucky Irving is a maybe for all your Rachaad White stuff, and then Tua has officially been cleared, so he will play. Are you going to rank Tyreek?
I will wrap up this discussion by saying the following.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield loses at least 8 fantasy points a game moving forward. Most of that is due to variance, but there's at least, let's say, 3 fantasy points a game he loses because he lost his twin high-quality receivers, right? You lose a high-quality receiver duo, a top 5 wide receiver duo in the league, you're going to lose 2 to 3 fantasy points a game, especially if you are not what we would call an elite deliverer of footballs. Okay. Now, Brock Purdy at this point has been an elite deliverer of footballs, right? He's not an elite fantasy scorer because he's not mobile, and neither is Joe Burrow. With Brock Purdy, I would say he loses 1 fantasy points per game. I think you dock Purdy 1 fantasy point per game with a loss of a Brandon Ayuk, because Brandon Ayuk has a lot of value on the outside. I think as you go from a perimeter receiver toward the interior, I think that those receivers become less and less important. So losing Ayuk matters more than losing Kittle to a Brock Purdy. But because Brock Purdy is already at a level where it's like he is an elite deliverer of footballs, you could put Cowing out there, you can put Pearsall out there, and he'll be a productive fantasy asset for you. He's still a guy you should start.
Yeah, and I think that it'll maybe Evans will be back in like 2 weeks. It just looks so bad. He was like Mike Evans doesn't ever complain about playing through this stuff. I mean, he's the guy that him and Julio Jones have been the 2 we always worry about playing through stuff and being a dang decoy. You know what I mean? Like he plays, and when you saw him grab his hamstring, you're like, oh, that doesn't look like Mike Evans, dude. That looks scary. So I'm worried he could be out for an extended period. But if they get him back, I don't think it'll be complete disaster for Baker Mayfield. But I do agree that, I mean, if you can get out from under that, I think now's the time.
And my final take on this is by Trevor Lawrence. So where I'm going with all of this is Trevor Lawrence is at a low point. He's locked in with the long-term contract in Jacksonville, and he has Brian Thomas, a true alpha, for the next 4.5 years at the very least. And then we start talking about franchise tags and extensions and all these things. We're talking about a bare minimum 4.5 years of Brian Thomas. And he will help Trevor Lawrence. Because of Brian Thomas, I am now buying Trevor Lawrence. I've been fading Trevor Lawrence since he entered the league. At this point, his value has finally cratered where enough people are walking away from Trevor Lawrence that I am the one stepping in, and I'm now making a market for Trevor Lawrence because of Brian Thomas. And I want to get your final assessment. And before you go, I need your assessment in Dynasty. Who you got? Brian Thomas or Marvin Harrison?
Man, it's still close. It's gotten much, much closer than I would have ever expected. But I'm still holding on. For me, it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
It's a big debate here at Player Profiler. There have been, a number of situations. There have been serious discussions and some, passionate arguments on both sides. Continue to monitor the Player Profiler Dynasty rankings because I am here to deliver the news that may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but you will see Brian Thomas surpassing Marvin Harrison Jr. in Dynasty. Look out for it. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.